an interview I've been greatly looking forward to, and I think you have soon too, because I think it's an interview that needed to be had. After a controversy erupted over a poem, and I would say a poem that is provocative and certainly provoked dozens of complaints to the Human Rights Commission. A poem that was dramatised and performed last Thursday at the Auckland Arts Festival. A poem by a woman called Tusiata Avia, who has been a poet for some time, largely funded through the public purse, through Creative New Zealand and other grants, and also someone who's been recognised as being given the Order of New Zealand Merit, or the New Zealand Order of Merit. Of course, a title based on the old colonial largesse and class system, isn't it, that the Queen would dub people or the monarch would dub people. Tusiata Avia's poetry is deliberately, and she makes no apologies for it, provocative, and some would say, and many would say, angry and inciting to violence. But it seemed the Human Rights Commission was reluctant to pass any judgment on this poetry or this work of art, and it seemed to me slow or very, very methodical and bureaucratic in responding to the complaints it's got, which seems strange given that our Race Relations Commissioner is no shrinking violet when it comes to calling out or giving nothing to racism, I think is their catch cry. And in the middle of this, Nobby Clark, isn't it, the Mayor of Invercargill, uses the N-word in the context of discussing this debate over art and what's acceptable. And Meng Foon, the Race Relations Commissioner, says he should apologise or resign. Bang, just like that, no formal complaints, but he's in like a robber's dog. That has led many people to say, is there a double standard here? Does our Race Relations Commissioner believe that racism can only run one way, and you can't be racist about a majority group or about, let's be blunt, white people? Well, look, to answer that and discuss this whole ball of wax, we're joined now by the Race Relations Commissioner, Meng Foon. Meng, welcome to the platform again. Nice to have you with us.
Morning, Sean. Morena. Good to be with you.
All right. I want to ask you straight up first the question that has been raised. Is it possible to be racist against white people in New Zealand?
Yes, it is possible to be racist against white people in New Zealand, and there is possibility to be racial connotations as well between races. But sometimes that is more prejudice than racist.
And sorry,
but sure, sure.
Yeah.
But generally, the definition of racism is that it's generally a system based on colour, where the power imbalance of one group of people has over another. It's just more of a system based. So if you don't get the fair treatment in housing, say Chinese people get into houses more than other races in New Zealand, then that's can be considered racist.
How, if there's not a law that discriminates against people on grounds of race, Meng?
No, because people act that way, Sean. There's just been, like in South Africa, even though there was apartheid, people acted
But that was
way.
a law.
So,
Apartheid was a law based on law, Meng. You could see it. It was codified.
Yeah, but there's been many incidences of systemic and structural racism in organisations in New Zealand.
Give me an example, a current example.
Well recorded.
Give me a current example.
Okay, give you a current example. So the police takes more photographs of brown kids than white kids.
I don't think they're taking any photographs of kids at the moment. They've been told to knock it off, and quite rightly so.
That's right.
And
so
maybe because more brown kids commit crime,
out.
maybe they take lots of pictures of kids who they consider at risk or are going to commit crime.
They just come to that assumption.
Maybe because they look at the number of people, Māori people in prison, and say, look, statistically, that's just the truth.
Maybe that is, but they still innocent young Māori kids and Pacific kids that won't.
And I think quite rightly, the police have been told you don't target people like that. It's a breach of anyone's innocence privacy. Okay.
Yeah.
Meng, if you have time, and because I do not want to, I want to make sure we're both talking about the same thing. I don't want to spring this on you. I would like to play Tusiata reading her poem so that we know exactly the words we're talking about. Would you mind listening to that? It's a couple of minutes. Meng, you there? Hello?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay, so we'll just play this. So let's get into the poem now.
Fuck you, bitch. James, I heard someone shoved a knife right up into the gap between your white ribs at Kealakekua Bay. I'm gonna go there. Make a big makahiki luau, cook a white pig, feed it to the dogs, and fuck you up, bitch. Hey James, it's us. These days we're driving around in SUVs and looking for you. All white men like you, who might be thieves or rapists or kidnappers or murderers, or any of your descendants or any of your incarnations, 'cause you know, bitch, we're gonna fuck you up.
All right, that's just a taste of it, Meng. That's okay. Your reaction. Just give me your reaction to it.
Terrible. I don't like it.
Do you think it's racist?
It's not racist in the context of racial discrimination, but definitely is provocative. Personally, to me, it's angry, hate-filled, and threatening.
Why can't you realise when it says we're going to kill white people and your descendants? Why can't you say that's racist, Meng?
Well, it actually chooses a group of people that is
identifies them by their colour and their age and other factors.
Murderers, rapists. So that's
might be murderers and rapists. It's like killing on suspicion, Meng.
I'm not an analyst of this sort of thing, but I know that it is not it doesn't fit into the definition of racial discrimination, Sean. And racial discrimination is a system of classification.
Okay, Meng, but you do not like the. But let's get it clear. You don't like the poem. You don't like its tone.
No.
Do you think it's provocative? Do you think it is something? Okay, let's take it from another angle, Meng. Do you think a poem like that, widely published, enhances or inhibits racial harmony in New Zealand?
It definitely doesn't help, and I encourage people to actually use poets are seemingly clever people. They could actually use words that are that create debate. They could highlight the.
I think she's done that, Meng, hasn't she?
Yeah. She's definitely got your attention. She's got the attention of over 270 complaints to the Human Rights Commission.
What? I thought you were lucky to have it. 270. That's huge.
Plus 270. That is huge. And most, about 95% were based on the hatred. Did it actually meet this hate speech threshold? And you and I know of the freedom of speech, and we continue to uphold the freedom of speech, and that only 2 people have been prosecuted under the hate speech legislation since the inception, and that's about 30, 40 years.
And I have to say personally, Meng, I think she's an artist. I think she can be as obnoxious as she wants, and if she wants to offend me or get me riled up, that's her right in a free country. That's what free speech is about. But let's look at this. The Human Rights Commission is supporting an enhancement and a hardening of our hate speech laws, right?
No, it actually wants to. What we want to do is still maintain the high threshold, like now, but we need to actually cover a groups of people that are not covered, and so people that of faith and religious base, they're not covered by the hate speech.
Well, it would
so
seem white men aren't covered either at present, are they, Meng?
No, but white men, rapists and murderers and thieves.
Why are you putting white men in with rapists and murderers? And she didn't say rapists and murderers just if I think you're a rapist or a murderer. In fact, she was being incredibly discriminatory against white men to say we can be the only rapists and murderers.
Well, that's her speech, isn't it? And the other groups, the rainbow community aren't covered. And
well, they don't need to be if everyone is covered, Meng.
Yes, I know, but these groups of people get more racial hate speech.
Who says?
Hate
Who
towards
says?
them.
Who says?
Any other group in New Zealand.
Who says? Where's your data evidence for that,
The
Meng?
Human Rights. There's plenty of evidence. The Human Rights Commission, just have a look on the website.
Give me one piece.
The number of...
No, people say they do because people play the victim, Meng. That's what people do. It's called cry bullying.
No, they complain to the Human Rights Commission. 40% of our complaints are based on race. 40% of our other complaints are based on disability. And the other 20% are mainly based on LGBTQI people. So that's what our statistics say.
Meng, I guess too the other perception problem that we have here, and can I say, look, I just want to say again, thanks for coming on and talking. I think this is useful. So the Tusiata thing's happening. You guys are incredibly kind of bureaucratic and formal in your response to those 270 complaints, and that number amazes me. A mayor, a democratically elected mayor, talking in the context of art and censorship around this whole issue, in fact, this specific issue, uses in context the N-word. And you say, well, actually, Meng, and I don't mean to do this, Nobby Clark, the Mayor of Invercargill, is on the line now. And in the interest of people talking to each other, Meng, I wonder if you got anything to say to Nobby.
Yeah, look, Nobby, Your Worship, I know that you have the right to freedom of speech, and you know what slavery is like. And, in a leadership position, I think it's inappropriate and distasteful, even though you have the right to say what you need to say, because I don't want you to stoop down to the lowest denominator. I want you to lift the game and create harmonious communities in Aotearoa.
Nobby, what do you got to say in response to Meng?
Well, three things about that, I guess. I do a lot of work with Mana Whenua to do exactly what he says. I was speaking to a small group of about 50 art folk that were in our community. I don't like any of those words that were expressed, and there were 3 sets, including reference to that poet in Christchurch, which I think is absolutely hate speech. And if we want to talk about upping the bar, the best person to up the bar on race relations is the Commissioner, not me. All I did was I reflected back to the art community some of the dialogue that they have within their artistic license and asked them how would that fit if I was the governor of a city that was building a new art gallery. Would I have the ability to keep the reins on what our community, our wider community, thinks is unacceptable behaviour? And that's all I was doing. But that one word jumped out, and I've got castrated by the commissioner, a whole lot of MPs, and not one of them on the day had the decency to pick up the phone and ring me to get the context.
Meng, you've heard Nobby's context. What do you say in response to that?
Well, I still don't like it, and I don't like the artists that actually promote these words as well. So there you go.
Then why didn't you call on Tusiata Avia? Well, I know. Okay, Nobby, you go for it.
Yeah, so putting aside the N-word, and we talk about that artist is funded by Crown funding, central government funding. She has won an award recently, and I don't hear anybody saying that they like her language, but it's beyond just the language. I mean, I don't mind artistic license, and I don't mind people to debate on colonisation or other things. We'll always have opposing views on that. But when you suggest in a poem that you're going to get in the car with some of your brown sisters with butcher's knives going looking for descendants, if I was to reverse that argument and make the same comment here, I'd be sitting and talking to you from a jail cell. But it seems to me that we have double standards in New Zealand, that some races have a licence to do hate speech. And we know where this hate speech leaves us. 4 years ago in Christchurch, we know exactly where that ended up. And since then, the government's done little or nothing to define what is hate speech and how we should attempt to control it as a society. They've just let it go because it's got too hard alongside freedom of speech.
Meng?
And that's why I condone anything that incites disharmony in our community, and I continue to encourage people to use words that are going to enhance and maintain harmonious communities in New Zealand. And that is my legislative directive from the legislation, as you have read. And so, I'll call out anybody, whether they're artists, poets, public figures, anybody who uses language that is inappropriate. And not everything's racism. Sometimes it's a prejudice. Sometimes it's hate. So, but the laws allow the freedom of speech. We use the term lawful but awful.
Yeah. So, Sean, just as a final response to that, it's really interesting that most of the MPs that got onto TV1 and TV3 on the day concerned, or the day after the alleged breach on my behalf, referred to me as a white old male. And yet, I don't use that terminology when I talk about people from Pacifica or from the Asian community or from the Mana Whenua community. And yet it seems to be that there's license to refer to me as an old stale male person, and I don't find that appropriate. But I have not heard the language from the Commissioner until just recently about that poem. That poem's won an award. It's been state-funded, as you quite rightly say, to a tune of $107,000. The same people that funded that were sitting and arranged the meeting that I went to in Invercargill, and yet they have a tolerance for that poetry. In fact, they hold it up as a good piece of artwork. And yet when I talk to a small group and don't use my words, I actually use their words to reflect back on them. I didn't make any statements as such. All I did is pose them a whole lot of questions so that they would go away and think about how we would manage an art gallery in the future to maintain what is community standard. No. And I got a right rule flogging for that.
You sure did. Nobby, just stay on the line for a moment, because, Meng, I want to put something to you. I think it's been good that you two can talk directly to each other today. But I'm wondering if you would take this opportunity, Meng, given that you have had an explanation from Nobby of what he was doing, to withdraw your call for him to resign and accept his explanation that he used those words in a context of having a difficult conversation that this country needs to have around these issues.
Sean, I didn't ask Nobby to resign. Actually, Nobby asked me to resign.
All right. So you
we
haven't
need to
called
get
on
that
him to
straight in the
apologise.
first
Do you
place.
accept Nobby's
I
explanation?
just ask him to look. It's best not to use those words. We don't want our children to be hearing those words in our community, swear words or anything. It's not tolerated, and definitely inappropriate. I mean, our society has changed a lot, and you would know that, Sean.
So this is a no.
lot.
You're not going to say to Nobby you understood the context in which he was saying that, because it seems to me you are prepared to understand the context in which Tusiata writes her poem, but not the context in which Nobby tries to have a grown-up discussion.
I can understand Nobby's context, right? But I still don't like it.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah, I don't like it. It's not my. It's my DNA and my job is to maintain and enhance harmonious communities, and that's why we're developing the National Action Plan.
But can you see, Meng, how horribly you've failed to do that because of the apparent double standard over what Nobby said and the poem by Tusiata?
Well, let me tell you, I don't think we've actually received any formal complaint about Nobby.
No, then what the hell are you doing jumping into that? And you really are pretty soft on Tusiata.
No, let's be fair.
Yeah, and
there's been 270 complaints, and some of them actually wanted the play to be banned. It wanted it to be censored. It wanted the funding take away. So those are the things that we need to explore carefully before we actually answer.
And I don't think anyone would say that censorship is the answer to these issues.
If I answered immediately, I might have got it wrong. I don't want to backtrack. That's all I'm saying.
So Sean.
Yep. Nobby?
Two things about that, and I don't want to disrespect the Commissioner, but look, in the last 4 years or whatever it's been since we had the Muslim shootings in Christchurch, I can't think of an example where the Race Relations Commissioner's office could not have put a line in the sand more around hate speech than that poem. And it's interesting that the Commissioner says, I don't want to jump in around the poem because I might get it wrong. Well, very, very quick to jump in on my scenario without anybody checking me about the context. And I had the Commissioner and probably half a dozen or more senior MPs all jump in as well. So when they jump in on me, they're saying to the wider community, actually that hate speech is actually okay. And anybody that wants to challenge things are not okay, we'll shoot the messenger. We won't actually shoot the person that's done the damage in the first place.
Yeah. Nobby, can I ask you what reaction have you...
Both sides are not okay. Both sides are not okay in terms of hate speech. I don't like it at all.
Yeah. Nobby, have you had much blowback to those comments?
Well, it's really interesting. One of the platforms that started this off, which was Spin-Off, is now done a search of all my emails. And what they will find is I've had about 140 emails in about 4 days. Only 3 of them have been negative. 2 of them I can't repeat online. And the third one actually said I shouldn't have used artistic license to raise the issues. Well, actually, I didn't use the artistic license. And the other 99% all said, good on you for raising this. This discussion is long overdue.
Okay, and you're not apologising, you're not resigning, Nobby. Not that Meng ever called on you to resign.
No, you can tell some of the MPs in the Green Party that suggested I do resign. And I think Minister Mahout has gone well down that line as well, that I am not resigning. I fear nobody. And there's a good saying that says that evil only prevails when good men stay silent.
Or do nothing. Nobby, I thank you for your time. Meng, if you could stay on the line. So thanks to Nobby Clark there, and Meng, thank you for that discussion. I don't know if we made progress, but talking to each other is better than shouting at each other, isn't it? Where are we at with those 270 formal complaints? What is the process now?
We responded to all of them, and I've issued a personal statement that I don't like the content of the poem. I find it distasteful for me. If someone wants to actually take this case further as a hate speech, they could test it in the Human Rights proceedings.
Review tribunal. But basically, you're not going to do anything. That's the message you send out to these 270 people. Not really interested.
No. I've reached out to the poet as well, and I've encouraged her to use harmonious language as well.
Good luck with that, Meg. How did that go? Did you get a reaction from her?
Well, she said, look, I have the freedom of speech. And I said, yes, you do, but I'm encouraging you to use harmonious language because that's my DNA and my job is to encourage people to do that.
All right. Look, how's the movie going? About you, the Meng movie.
I think it's out, isn't it?
I think it was out on Monday, mate. 13th, 14th?
I haven't.
I thought it might be today, actually, Meng. Yeah.
You're the first one to inform me, so
Do you think that was a good use of taxpayers' money, $200,000 for a movie about a year in your life? Was it that exciting?
Oh, very exciting. I don't know. I'm just the actor. I don't get paid. It's all voluntary. You know.
Yeah.
We just do. I mean, that's how much it costs for those people to do it. That's how much it costs. But I never got paid for it. But it took a long time because it was during the COVID time. I was supposed to take only a few months, but it took a couple of years.
Yeah. Meng, thank you for coming. Look, can I just say thank you for coming on? Thank you for talking for Nobby. And I want to give you a final chance because I'm getting the texts and, there'll be outrage. A number of people in this country now believe that you are one-eyed when it comes to race, that the Human Rights Commission does believe, whatever you say, that you can't be racist to white people and that the Human Rights Commission considers the rights of old white men or Pākehā less than other people's rights, and that you should resign. I just want to give you a chance to respond to those people because I imagine this debate isn't going away.
Well, any form of prejudice that is bad and any form of racism that is classification, and I don't like the use of old grey stale. That's a terrible statement to use by some people. Already they have actually formed a prejudice against white men. I say
it's like saying boomer, isn't that a terrible term?
Yeah, whatever terms. I'm just saying, you got to stand your ground because I also say to white people that you actually still have a lot to contribute to society, and so I'm always encouraging our communities to actually be fair and to not judge the cover by the book, and that we're here to try and eliminate racism and create and maintain harmonious communities. And I'm always available, as you know. I don't shy away.
I think I personally would say, I would say with the greatest of respect, the Human Rights Commission and you need to look at your actions around this and say whether you've achieved, and ask yourselves in a harsh way whether or not you've achieved that goal.
Well, it's constant, right? So, well, I have 3 A's. The first one is awareness. Are we aware of who we are and what we're saying? The other one is affirmation, because just like the speed signs on the road and the health and safety policies, we need that affirmation nearly every day. Otherwise, we'll forget. And the other A is action. 3 A's.
All right.
Awareness, affirmation, and action, and hopefully positive action there, Sean. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a great day, Meng. That is Meng Foon. He is the Race Relations Commissioner. Also, Nobby Clark at short notice got on. Did I achieve anything?